Heard about Wellington Country Park, well, since being a kid really. I think it was probably Steve Reynard who brought this to the forefront. Then you looked at the Cauda underwater footage videos, then when they first came out, and yeah, it's always had a history of, you know, having massive, massive fish. I don't know many places in the UK where you can be on a lake and any run could be a new PB for you, and that's what motivates me. The fish stock in here, what we've already spoke about, is absolutely incredible. You see the pictures in the hut, you only have to look on social media of some, over the years, some of the fish that have been shared. You know, everyone knows about Wellington Country Park and its big fish. What swims around in here, when you said when that buzzer goes, oh, it could be absolutely anything. You know, we call it the Lake of Dreams, and it's called that for a reason. We're in Wellington Country Park in Reading, Berkshire. It's about 40 acres in size, absolutely stunning country park, very, very well kept, beautiful grounds and an absolute privilege to fish in. A rough estimate, there's probably about 85 known fish, although last summer I certainly saw a lot of mid-double fish that have not come out nor really get seen. So there is potential for there to be more in here. However, you know, benchmark, if you asked most of the syndicate members, we'd ultimately say 85. 1250s, potentially 260s, certainly 160, that was Scruffy Bob. That came out to a good friend, Neil. He had that in December. There's a fish called the chestnut, which everyone's eager to see, which potentially could go 60. That's certainly one of my targets. God, it's well due out, and I'd love to have that one. Scruffy is right up there on my target. The one that I really want is a fish called the linear. That's actually what I've joined Welly for, bizarrely. It has done 50 in the past. It's a proper old fish. There's just something about it. When I saw pictures of it years ago, I thought, you know, I'd love that one. And then when I got a ticket, I thought, I definitely want that one. And bizarrely, last year, a good friend who's a bailiff on here, Clint, he caught it. I went round and did the pictures for it. So not only have I seen it, I've touched it, which makes me want it even more. It's an old fish, it's not going to be around forever, so yeah, fingers crossed, it trips itself up sooner or later on, you know, on my rigs. A good friend, Charlie, he had it 2 weeks ago. Nice one, Charlie, second time round as well. So yeah, there's not many people who make me cry, but he made me cry last weekend. Absolutely gutted, but it does come out a couple of times a year, so yeah, fingers crossed. These fish in here are completely different. One thing, when I joined, I got told about their behavioural traits. You know, this is a 40-acre pit, so I'm known to fish for big fish big pits. You know, normally you can guess how carp behave. They'll follow winds, you know. When you've got the experience behind you, you can sort of like go on pig pits and have like a second guess as to what happens. Here, I've never seen carp behave the way they do here. People have told me it's very much like a game of chess fishing, Weller, and I completely agree. You've got to sort of like second guess before you get here where you'd think they're going to be. Yeah, they do show, but they don't show often. So even before you even get here, you're sort of like thinking, where am I going to be? Where could I go? You know, not only are you up against the fish, you're up against the anglers, who are excellent anglers. You know, they think very much like yourself as well, so you're always up against it. But the fish stock themselves, there's loads of different characters in here. You know, you've got Suttons, you've got huge ghosties. Yeah, the fights are incredible. It's quite a shallow lake, 6 foot maximum in areas. Not many snags for them to get into or anything like that. So some of these fish, they only get caught maybe once every 18 months. So you can imagine once they get a hook inside them, they have the fright of their lives, and they ain't coming in until they've had enough. So yeah, they really do pull on you big time. The rigs that I use for here, and 99.9% of my own angling, is a multi-rig. Yeah, there's many reasons as to why. First one, everyone uses Ronnie rigs. It's massively in vogue. For me, I like to be different, and that's what I'm known for, just being different, so why not? But for me, we had this conversation, didn't we, last night, about when I went to Belgium, you know, and I'd had a spot rocking massively, and I'd never tried the Ronnie rig before, so I thought, okay, here's a perfect chance. You know, I was catching right through the night, couldn't keep rods in the water at one point, but bizarrely I would get bites on a Ronnie, but there was nowhere near as quick as using a multi-rig. So I'd put 3 Ronnies out, it'd take a couple of hours to get a bite. I'd put 3 multi-rigs out, I couldn't keep the rods in, you know, so I knew straight away there was something in it. I don't know if it's the split shot and the strip to the coating, the way it naturally behaves in the water more. For me, it's a bit more low and inconspicuous than a Ronnie rig. That's what I like as well. And for me, the hook holds are phenomenal. I know that if a fish picks up my rig, I ain't getting done. But the biggest thing, what I love about a multi-rig, is if bizarrely you do get done, if you use a bead, as in a hook bead stop, which a lot of people don't, if you have been done, that's going to ultimately pull down. You reel in, and that bead is down, you know you've been done, end of. But do you know that with a Ronnie? You don't. Yeah, people say the Ronnie has the 360-degree angle turn if a carp sucks it in. If a carp sucks your upbait in anyway, full stop, as long as the hook drops, it ain't coming out, hopefully, if you've got a decent sharp hook on. Bait edges, I started off using our red ammo, something I've used extensively for 4.5 years. Yeah, it's caught me fish on here. It caught me one of the most sought after fish on the lake, actually, you know, by being different. However, one big thing I will say about being an angler is know your surroundings. You know, you should be constantly learning, even when you're blanking. And on here, you can go massive periods, like I am currently, of blanking. But if you're not learning, you're doing something wrong massively. And what I started to do by August and September is look around and see people still catching, and then started to realise that maybe I was doing something quite wrong. Not doing anything wrong in regards to bait, don't get me wrong, you know, I've used the same bait for 4.5 years, there's a reason as to why. But on here, 95–96% of the anglers are using a fish meal, and a well-known fish meal bait. So why should I make things harder for myself straight away by using what is a nut bait, milk protein, when ultimately they're getting a huge food source of the same bait, which is completely contrasting, completely different. So as hard as it is for me, I've had to sort of like step away from my traditional traits of bait myself for the last 4.5 years and go over to something completely different where I can try and compete with everybody else. Yeah, we're still in winter now, and it's probably not the right time to switch over bait. However, the idea is to start getting it in the lake, start getting it established, where hopefully once the water temperatures come up and the fish start feeding, the results should speak for themselves. My most memorable session on Weller would have to be the capture of my very first fish, which was the big Sutton. So last year we had ridiculous weather, 30-degree heat, you know, far from ideal fishing conditions, and in fact this lake closed for a month for fish welfare. But when it opened in August, it really, you know, it really started to fish well. The fish had spawned, they'd had a rest, and a big part of my angling is keeping an eye on the weather. And, you know, bizarrely from nowhere there was a huge low front coming in, big southwesters. We'd had nothing. We'd had northerlies for about a month, and all of a sudden there was a huge low front coming in. So, you know, there was a massive opportunity on here, a real big game changer. And I'd got down on the Saturday morning, and I just thought I just picked any old brolly. I had a couple of brollies in my garage, and I'd picked this really old brolly that I'd had for donkeys. Now I knew that there was a big low front coming in, but I didn't realise just how big the low front was. So I'd got set up, the rain and everything had come in, it was absolutely smack on for a bite, but my brolly couldn't take it, and the whole of the inside of my brolly collapsed. So I'd literally pegged this brolly down. It was so low for me to get out. I was like crawling under my brolly to even peer out. And a good friend of mine, Reggie, was in the swim next door. He'd had one that night. So that was, you know, he hadn't done a fish for a few weeks. So with him catching, we thought, I just had that feeling someone was going to catch a big fish, you know. And I remember saying to Reg, look, I can't stay here. I can't fish like this. And, you know, I need your help. It's going to go one way or the other now. I need 2 people to try and move my brolly without it collapsing. If it collapses, I'm going to have to pack up and go home. I can't stay out in this. It was absolutely smashing it down. You know, it was so windy, it was ridiculous. I had to get out of it. But I thought, if we can get my brolly pushed up into some bushes and get it bungeed, you know, I'll stick it out another night. I've spent worse conditions being in the army under something like that, that's for sure. But what I will say is most people would have given up. Most people would have gone, no chance, you know, this is insane, I'm going home. But I didn't. And yeah, luckily the brolly didn't collapse. We got it in the bushes. And I'll never forget 3 o'clock that morning, I just heard the alarm absolutely screaming in my ear. And I was away from my rods. I'd like got myself sheltered completely out of the wind and the rain. I remember running round and seeing my reel was actually sparking. You know, it was absolutely screaming off. Ran down to it, poof, struck what felt like an express strain straight away. 45 minutes later, Reg nets this fish for me, and yeah, he just looked at me and went, it's an absolute unit. And I knew straight away by the bend in my rod and all that he was probably going to be a PB. Yeah, we got it on the mat, weighed it, and you know, the rest is history. 47.12, the big Sutton, which is king of the pond, one of the most sought after fish in the lake. You know, a lot of people are still on here for that fish, so to have got that as my first fish on here, yeah, I was absolutely buzzing. Most memorable session so far. My target is to just enjoy it. I think people put far too much pressure on themselves in carp fishing, and I will hold my hand up and say I did that last year myself. You know, I came on here thinking it was going to be a lot easier than it was. It isn't. You know, people, again, they see this place, the big fish, they don't see the time, the effort and the amount of nights that you are going to blank. You know, some of the most successful anglers on here have gone 60, 70 nights without a bite, and then have gone on to catch 550s. You know, that's Wellington Country Park for you. But that keeps the fire in my belly roaring. The biggest tip on here is you've got to keep that going. You know, if your head's not in the game, don't bother coming up here, you know, because the angler left and right of you is going to be on the game. You've got to be 110% committed all the time and have the enthusiasm to know that regardless if you're going to blank or not, there's always chance of a bite. So for me, it's just a case of enjoying it. You know, life is hard enough without pressures of carp fishing. Just go out, enjoy yourself, and again, what we were speaking about before, if you can sit behind your buzzers knowing that you've done everything right, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If I can catch the linear in and amongst all that, then happy days, but nah, just to enjoy it. Life's hard enough. Just go out there, enjoy the sunsets, the sunrises, coffee or whatever you do, and that's what carp fishing should be about.
That's a wrap.
Happy days, mate.